All right, good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing? Good to see you. Or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are from. Good to have you here. I see you in chat. Mitch, what's up? He was first one here. Welcome. Kathy, good to have you as well. Arlindo, Kai, yes, welcome everybody. Paul Trani here. Here in, actually in San Francisco. So we're going to get this party started. It's going to be a super fun week because it's a lot of UX and UI design happening. So, all right. Yeah, always curious as to where you're from. Simon says it's got some drizzle and rain. I'm sorry to hear that. It's a beautiful day here in San Francisco. So we're going to get this started. Yes. Shalab, this is going to be a fantastic morning. I personally think so. I'm going to be going for an hour talking about UX and UI, specifically training in Adobe XD as the title of this live stream suggests. But why am I doing this? Well, we have a fun week planned because we have, starting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time, Pablo Stanley is in the house. Fantastic YouTuber, really good designer. I'll be hosting him at 9 a.m. At 11, we have Alice Scalfi as well. So we'll have her for 2 hours with Mark Reisen, who's also a UX designer at Atlassian. So, and then we have Lex Valashvili. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I'll find out tomorrow. So you can find out with me at 1 p.m. And then Daniel Musa. Basically fantastic people. Quite frankly, you could always kind of check out their names or the full schedule if you just click on the schedule tab. But stay with me because we're going to dive into this right now. And again, my name is Paul Trani, Evangelist for Adobe, and we're going to get this party started. Petaluma. I don't even know where Petaluma is. I don't know. Paco, do you know? I have no idea. Petaluma. Up north. We're going to say it's up north. We have a 25% shot at getting that right. But we're going to dive into this. UK is in the house. Liverpool, Belgium. Super cool having you here. Munich as well. Sharon from Hong Kong. All right. Well, I want to make this worth your while. It will be. I really like what we have going on today. So again, this is your crash course in Adobe XD. And this is my agenda. So I don't mean to ignore chat at all or anything like that, but I'm going to be kind of focusing on making this a training for the full hour. So I'm going to cover a topic and then glance at chat, answer any questions that you might have, and that's basically how it will work. If that works for you, Shilpa from India. Awesome. So Carlos. Oh, it's in Sonoma County. Oh, it is just north of us. Oh, nice. Good times. All right, here's the schedule. So basically, I'm going to talk about creating and importing, kind of cover all of that. And the bulk of what we're going to do is going to be that sort of creating and designing in XD. Okay. And I'll also give an overview of XD as well. And then we'll get into, you guessed it, sort of adding artboards or screens. And then linking those screens together with fancy, buttons and transitions and everything like that. And then we'll dive into sharing that content as well. So that's the idea. And as far away as French, good to have you here. Guillaume? Hopefully I'm saying that right. But I'm going to share my screen and just kind of talk about XD as a whole, by the way, so you can download it. It is available in Creative Cloud, so you can see right up in here. If you're a Creative Cloud member, you can go to Apps, and again, you can find Adobe XD in here, right here. Sure enough, there it is, okay? But essentially, it allows you to design and prototype as well as share really whatever you want. So the easy use case is for apps. You designing an app, just doing the design for it, and then linking those screens together and then pushing it out. But again, that's what it allows you to do from concept to prototype for anything, whether it's like a smartwatch, I don't know. It could be any sort of screen, and that's what it is. So let's dive into this right now. No, this is not XD, that's Photoshop. But I do have it right here. and I can give you kind of a quick preview of what XD is as well as what I'm making. So just clicking on this desktop preview is what I'm viewing. You can see this design. Again, just an example of what you can do in XD. A nice list. Select Cuba. Read all about Cuba. Click into that location as well. So that just gives you an idea of what I plan on building out within an hour. Cool? Does that work for you, Amber and Rita from Portugal? All right. All right. Oh, sweet. Amber, you just started to learn UI and UX design. We can talk about the fundamentals of it. That gets a little bit deeper, but I want to just show you XD right now. And again, you're going to be set up and really the pro this week by following along. So when you launch XD, that's where we're going to start. You can pick sort of from these sort of like starter templates, if you will. These are just blank artboards. I did want to point out that you can click on this little arrow right here and access a different, like a couple more profiles in each case. Okay. You can also explore the basics through this tutorial as well. Okay. So there actually is a file that you can play with. But what I'm going to do is going to keep this simple. Launch iPhone 6/7/8. See it right here. Amber, if you think the colors are too saturated in Adobe XD, how can you fix this? I mean, I can talk about playing with colors. I don't know if overall everything seems too saturated. You can only edit colors for vector graphics. If it's a bitmap that you've imported, you're going to have to open that back up in Photoshop. So what I'm doing here initially is I'm going to just change the name of this artboard right here. We'll call it Splash. And this is my initial artboard. I sometimes call it a screen, but this is where what I'm going to start with. So from here, whatever I have selected, I can change the properties on the right-hand side. Okay, so you can see width and height and all that fun stuff. Guess what? Appearance, yes. This will change depending on how advanced your graph it is. If it has might have a stroke, whatever the case may be. But here I'm just going to pick a nice. Let's go with the nice blue. Marcelo from Brazil. Hello, my friend. Good to have you here. All right, so here we are. Splash screen is what I'm working on. I'm just going to design in XD by using these basic shapes, right? Really simple, but it's like they're actually a little bit more complex than you realize. So even just taking an ellipse or a circle, I'm just going to draw out a circle. What am I doing? Eduardo probably knows essentially to draw from the center as I click and drag. I just hold down the Shift key, right, to constrain it, and the Option key or Alt key will draw from the center as opposed to the upper left-hand corner. But I'm just going to create a nice circle. Easy enough. I can turn off the border. I can change the fill to maybe something a little more pink, like that. Boy, that's looking electric. Zooming in using those shortcut keys, Command plus, Command minus, just like in Photoshop and Illustrator. This is what I want to show you because this is really unique to, I think it's pretty unique to XD. But so this is my basic shape, and I can move it around and edit it all I want. But if I double click on it, I get access to those little control points, right? So I have access to these anchor points right here. So I can take this one. Sure enough, I can move it around all I want, right? I can make it taller, thinner, whatever the case may be. If I want to get rid of these Bezier lines right here, so these Bezier control points, I can manipulate them, or I can just double click on that and I can make this a sharp point, because that's what I want to do. I want to kind of bring that down like that and make a sharp point just like that. If I want to add a point as well, just roll over the line and then you click, right? So it's like when I look over here at the tool panel, I think it looks kind of light, but you don't need it doesn't need a add anchor point, remove anchor point, or anything like that. I think I can hear myself there, Paco, on your laptop. So, all right. So essentially, I don't need any of those points. But hold on one second. I'm going to change this because I decided to make a logo. Yeah. Okay, cool. And again, just kind of review where I'm at right now. So notice. Okay, cool. All right, so again, we're just creating and editing shapes and lines is what we're doing right now. So let me get back to this. Sorry, I just had a little audio issue. Okay, cool. And I just got notice that Damian Borba is going live at 11 a.m. on... Actually, I think he's going live on Facebook on the Adobe XD page there. So if you have any roadmap questions for features, he's the one to ask those questions to. And I'll do my best as well. But he's the one you could really pry the information out of. You know, just... I'm trying to get him in trouble, basically. All right, so here's my shape. Pretty straightforward. I want to duplicate this. Command D, right? We'll duplicate it. Or I could do a copy and then a paste, right? There's two. Easy enough. You're probably using Illustrator. Rita, Marcelo, Daniel, I don't know if you're using Illustrator or whatever, but the same controls apply. Watch, I'm going to just hold down Shift and then the Alt key and drag that out to make two, just like that, right? I'll rotate this. This is what I want to do now. I want to make a map pin. What's that? Oh, sorry about that. I apologize. This is why we have the tech expert next to me. He's good. Sorry, I was still on the schedule screen, or basically my outline. But all I did is duplicate this, right? Just by holding the Option key and Shift key and drag that out. Now I want to punch a hole in this. So check this out. I can draw with a different shape, right? Then selecting both of these, I can come up here to the upper right, and here's all your Boolean operations. Right, so add, subtract. I don't even know what some of these like intersect and exclude overlap. Really, what do I want to do? I want to subtract. Punched a hole in it, right? So this is the cool thing is like I typically lose data when I do that in Illustrator, but in XD, if I come in here, I'm like, oh, look, I still have access to both of these shapes, as you can see. So I can move this. It's non-destructive, basically. I can move this any way I want and get that more lined up because I'm sure that was bothering you, right? And again, I can still edit this as a complete shape like that. Now we have our map icon. Okay, hopefully that works for you, Sergey. I'm going to just kind of manipulate this because I'm working on this location-based app, and I thought I'd be kind of clever and make a heart. I thought I was really clever when I came up with this logo, by the way. And there's no way this is original at all. Right? So editing is as easy as you think. If you want to use the pen tool, right, it's going to work exactly the way you think it's going to work. Adding and removing points, we got that down. Right? We're feeling good. Carlos? You feeling good, Carlos? All right. Diving into some of the text capabilities. Pretty straightforward with text. Notice how I'm not even really mentioning anything, right? You get it. You understand how text works, right? It's like, do you understand computers? What's unique is right down here, if you could see this, Amber, and thank you for the heads up on that screen. So this little circle right down here, this is a control point that will allow me to adjust the size of this text. So that's what I'll typically grab and extend that and make that larger in this case. Okay, Command 0 will fit it back into my full view, and I can start to get an idea for how this is looking, making sure this is center, something like that. I'm going to cycle through, I don't know, go through some different fonts here. Oh, yes. I really like this font. Mena, hopefully this works for you, because notice how this logo is nice and rounded. I'm going to pick a font that's kind of rounded and just friendly. So again, kind of a boring, this is if we really want to make this like a hipster app, find, yeah, Maybe that's the name of the app. We'll work on it. We can always change it later. But essentially, I just have the different controls for text right over here. You're probably wondering, Osama. Oh, good to have you here, man. Simon. Basically, if there's going to be like more features around the text, text properties, more text-like properties, and that's something perfectly. It would be great to ask Damien in an hour, actually 45 minutes. Basically, stuff's coming, is what I'm telling you. All right, let's move on from there. Again, I can do this all day long, just making buttons. Zip. Rectangle. Zip. Round those corners. In this case, I'm going to give this, yeah, sure, I can give it that same sort of red fill. But what I want to do is I want to go beyond that, okay? So I want to go beyond that into a linear gradient. And notice there's also a radial gradient. Where do you find that? Just pick the color option, and then right up here, change it from solid color to linear. I point that out because it gets lost, right? So I don't have to worry about like manipulating these color stops right up here. I can actually manipulate the direction of that gradient, which is what I typically do actually on the object. Make sure it has a nice highlight right up there, kind of going down to that bottom part. Right, from there I can like take this text. Let's have a button that says explore. Like that. All right, so that's what we're working on, creating in Adobe XD. Cool. Could you add simple animation? You currently can add transitions, but not animating objects just yet. Okay, so that's a great suggestion. We always want to have you vote for things that you want. So if you go into the help menu, you have provide feedback, because I want to be able to capture these recommendations. There is rumor, by the way, there is technically a rumor about an Adobe XD update coming like super soon, like within the next 24 hours. But you didn't hear me say that. Okay, so moving on, we have this squared away. I can use XD. I can also use, say for instance, Illustrator. So I don't have to necessarily just use XD. If you have a logo in Illustrator, you can bring that in. How do you do it? Copy and paste. Super easy. How else can you do it? File import. Okay. I'm going to show you that now, and then we're going to get into sort of like bringing in photos and stuff like that. There we are. Could do this a couple different ways. Mitch, you're feeling tired, my friend? The day is just beginning. It's a beautiful week, and we have an awesome lineup this week on behance.net/live. Hopefully you're joining me there right now, but we have a great... Let me just click over to the schedule so you're aware, and I promise I will switch it back and not forget. But Pablo Stanley, we have basically 4 fantastic UX and UI designers that are going to just show some cool stuff, and it's going to be really fun. So I'm looking forward to this week. All right, so that's the schedule. Join us tomorrow, 9 a.m. myself, as well as Pablo Stanley. He's the rock star there. Check this out. I'm going to go ahead and select this line. We can see I'm in Illustrator. I could do a copy and paste. Right. I'm going to show you 3 ways to do this. I could do a copy, paste. There it is. Done and done. And I can shrink that down and have some fun with this all I want. Show you a couple more ways. Check this out. You ready for this, Rita? How are you today, Rita? I can use Creative Cloud libraries. We can see it over here. Libraries. I can have just, certain libraries, say composites, for instance, or Tokyo. Let's go with Tokyo. I can have that asset right in there. And this is Skyline, along with a number of other things, and I can access that from Adobe XD as well. So Adobe XD, File, Open CC Libraries, sure enough, here's a miscellaneous, and here's that Tokyo library that has that line art in it. But you get the idea how that works. I have this cityscape that I can bring in here, right? I'm bringing this in. This is a really complex vector asset. So that's what's happening here. So check this out. It's actually pretty big too. Look at that. This is it. This is the vector asset. And let's zoom out because I want to show you that this has a little lock on it. So it says that it's connected to that file. So if I happen to edit it in Illustrator, it's going to change, sure enough, in XD. All right, cool. Okay, my design's suffering a little bit, and actually what I want to do is what's going to really complement these graphics is a nice image, a nice photograph. So this is what I could do. I can grab a photo from my desktop, I can import it, or I could just drop it in, right? I can not only drop it in, but this is what I like to do, okay? Rita and Mitch, hopefully you guys, I'm sure you are aware of this, but I'm going to take this JPEG and drop it on this asset. Sure enough, it puts it inside of that little box, if you will, and then I can position it wherever I want, right? And notice as you start to add more assets to Adobe XD, you might have layering problems because obviously this is covering everything else. Where is it? How do I deal with it? Yeah, you can do sort of bring to front, bring to back. You know, that's what you'd typically do. You know, maybe if you're in Keynote or PowerPoint. But you could also use the layers panel. So let me show you that. It's kind of behind my head right now, so it's kind of hard to see. So let's move this over. It's this little icon right down here. Click on that. It opens up this layers panel. It says, hey, I'm the splash screen. I'm selected, and you happen to have the Tokyo Tower image selected. It's on top of everything else, but that's how I can just kind of control the stacking. Taking that, dragging it down to the bottom, just like that. Right. Here's another thing I can do. Look, I have all these random assets. Like, look at this. I might want to take these two graphics, right? What it's called, path 1 and then subtraction 1. I can take those two, and we can see them in my layers panel, and group them. So that's what I'd want to do. Let's call that. Let's not even call it group 2. Let's call it heart. Right? Or logo. You get the idea. If you have questions, let me know. Let me click over to chat real fast. All right. Oh, good question. I will Evigny. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but if you want to design around that notch, you specifically for a platform essentially is what you're asking. Go to File, Get UI Kits, and here you have Apple iOS. So this is how you can design around that notch. It actually launches that particular, you guessed it, UI kit that you can then download and then use. And that's where you can get that, the iOS 10 little notch. So, all right, so that's where that comes from. I'm going to go beyond that here in a second. I'd say that's looking pretty good. Let's move on, shall we? All right, let's dive into my next screen, right? So, and again, just reviewing everything we've learned so far. Created, edited shapes, edited graphics, imported graphics as well, using those, obviously those, sort of file import, copy and paste, drag, drop, CC libraries. I'm going to get into adding artboards and creating and reusing assets, because as soon as you start adding artboards, you're going to be reusing a lot of assets. So how do you manage everything? And then also I'm going to dive into a repeat grid, which is often, definitely a hit in XD. And you'll realize you'll want it everywhere. All right, here I am back in my XD file. I'm going to save this. I'll just call this find my Find app on my desktop. I'll be happy to give you any of these files, because notice how I have created start and final files for the training today. So I'd be happy to send that out to you. You can just follow me on there we go. You can just follow me on online, and I can post that to Twitter. All right, so here's my splash screen. I'm going to select this. I'm going to do, what do we do? To duplicate it, I just want to do Command D. I can duplicate that artboard. Artboards work the same as graphics, quite frankly, right? So I duplicated it. That looks good. I can start to remove some of this stuff like that and make my next screen, okay? So that's what I want to do. I want to create the sort of the menu, the Explore menu, essentially, the Explore screen. And for this screen, this is what I want to do. I want to take this graphic, and I want to start to create a list. That's what I'm doing right now. Just going to go ahead and add some text, right? And an image. And typically you'd do a copy, you'd do a paste, you'd move this down, right? And you'll want to change this. This is the manual method. Going through, you know, grabbing another image, dropping it in there, and we'll have this say Tokyo. And then on down the line. But there's a much easier way. In fact, I'm going to do this in 2 seconds. So if you're not aware of this, you should be. Selecting both of these graphics, right? So that text and that image, okay? I'm sure Mitch knows about this. Amber, if you don't know about this, you should, because this is fantastic. I'm going to use a repeat grid, because that's what I want to do. I want to repeat that item. So with those graphics selected, clicking repeat grid, sure enough, gives me this handle, and then I can repeat it down as I drag that down, and I've repeated that element. Let's get rid of the spacing. Tile it down some more like that. Cool. So far, so good. I see that looks pretty good, but quite frankly, I need to change some of this, right? So I'm thinking, okay, you know, what if I decide to bring this text off to the side? Notice how it's all linked together. I can make it sort of left justified or centered if I want to. I can take, you know, this image and make it maybe a little more transparent. Ooh, I have a extra graphics. Don't mind those. But, oops. You could see essentially what I've done there. Hold on, wait for it. I have some weirdness going on here. There we go. So this was an extra one that I actually copied and pasted. And you might run into that. Hello, my friend Tim. If you do a copy and paste, it actually pastes it right on top of the current item. So you might have multiples that you don't even realize that you have. A good place to look is the layers panel off to the side here. You can see it. And the cool thing about this is that it actually just is contextual. So it shows me, hopefully you can see that, making that a little larger, shows me just the layers for the menu screen, which is nice. All right, so let's get that out of there. Let's get this back up here. I can come in and make this content different for each one. So this could be, China, you get the idea, Australia. And then I can start to swap out these images, but I want to go beyond that. So check this out. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to grab all these images, right? Selecting all 9 images, because rather than importing them one by one, I can just drop them right in here, and they will, you guessed it, propagate on down, right? Showing me, again, everything that I've dropped in. And then it will also start repeating. Okay. At this point, I might need to take the transparency down a little bit so we could read that text. And we notice these names are kind of off as well. And rather than changing each one by one, if you're lazy like me and lucky enough to have maybe a TXT file, right? And this could be, I encourage you to have like a text file of like usernames, and just like you have a lot of like generic data. So you could use that TXT file and drop it on that text right there. And you can see now it lines up and is correct. I'm going to pause for a second, check chat, see if anybody has any questions. Other than people are like, hey, I'm from Argentina. Adobe Live's in the house somewhere, maybe in the building. I do not know. Cool. Looks good. This is me any day of the week. Is I'm always double fisting like 2 drinks. Water and coffee this morning. How can you show the design in multiple languages? Ultimately, what that's going to take is for you to probably just duplicate this screen, okay? So you're going to end up with an app, that has multiple screens, and you're going to have to duplicate those. So right up here, this would be the Spanish version up here. So yeah. I do want to point out that we did actually show, and you could drop on different languages right in here, but that is actually a request in dealing with multiple languages and being able to switch from one to the next. We showed at Adobe Max 2 years ago a way to import data from like a spreadsheet, and so basically was pulling in that data and displaying it accordingly. So we are kind of working on that, and I still encourage you to just provide feedback for sort of dealing with multiple languages. I heard that a couple times when I was in LA last 2 weeks ago. All right, but right now it's a very manual process is what I'm saying. All right, let's move on. Next up, we want to make the Cuba screen, right? I love Cuba. I have not been there. I'd love to go, I should say. All right. Yes, and hopefully you're joining me on behance.net/live. So if you're on YouTube, I'm not really keeping track of that chat, and I apologize, but go to behance.net/live. All right, so this one, I want to make a Cuba screen. So what I'm usually do is I shrink up that repeat grid, and then I say, hey, you know what? Ungroup it, boop, and that gives me my first item right here. Cuba. There we go. Make it pop. Making screens. Let's ungroup that. I want to get into a couple things. You ready for this? You ready for this? Sidig, if you welcome my friend. If you're new, I would love to hear if you're new. So say, yes, I'm new here. I would love to hear. I want to kind of dive into some effects that you can have with graphics. So check this out. Cuba. Simple text that I can have right here. Maybe this text over here, actually, I want it to stand off a little bit more. Right down here, I can add a drop shadow. And that's what I'm doing right now. Making sure that it's completely blue in this case. So that's one effect that I wanted to show. You also have the offset. Take that to 0. I've changed basically a drop shadow to more of like a glow, but basically making that easier to read. This is the one I like, okay? I really like this, Oliver. Hello. That's funny, Oliver. You're like me. All right, so with this text selected, I want to go over here and I'm going to just show this background blur. Turning on background blur, it blurs out whatever item you have selected, will blur out the background in the shape of that item. I just think this is a cool effect, and that's what I'm going to use. In a more practical sense, I could maybe have a rectangle and then turn on background blur for that rectangle. And keep in mind, I can adjust how blurry it is, as well as how bright or dark it is as well. But I typically will use this rather than a transparent panel to display information. Dropping in some text. Come on, text edit. I use text expander. I don't know if you do, but oops, 12. Having a hard time typing today. All right, here's my text. All right, fine. I'm just going to paste in some Greeking, some lorem ipsum. Just get some text in there. Boom. Done and done. There we have it. Oliver's in the house. Good to have you, my friend. A little glass of milk, a little glass of orange juice. What else is everybody drinking today? Coffee? Do we have coffee today? In my cool new Stumptown mug. All right. Effects. Boom. Have it. Done. Adding more to this. Okay, I'm going to add some more to this. So check this out. I'm going to show you something really cool. Okay. This logo right here, it's currently just called heart. I might want to reuse it. In fact, I'll shrink it down a little bit. It's supposed to be only about that big, you know, and this is going to be sort of my navigation button. And I'm going to reuse this item. So what do I want to do in this case? Oh, yes. I like it. Look at you, Jasmine with a crown. What is this? Are you a princess? I forgot the rest. Let's dive into this. Selecting this graphic. You are a dope princess, apparently. All right, so I didn't get much sleep last night. Let me select this graphic right here, and I have this assets panel. You can see it's actually probably behind my head. I apologize. To bring that into view, right down here. Looks like it is two circles connected by a line, because that says assets for some reason, right? But clicking on that opens up the assets panel. I have this graphic selected. I'm going to add it as a symbol right over here. So clicking right there, it's added as a symbol. Now what I can do, you can see it actually turns it green, right? That's green. And bring this out and have it right here. If I decide to change it, it's going to change it everywhere, right? It changes it everywhere, right? So that's what symbols do. Symbols get to be really powerful. You could see I've used these a couple different colors, at least 3 different colors. I have this signature color. Like, how can you load those colors in as part of your assets? Well, you could select everything, Command A, and then hit plus. And I've added all the colors that I've used to my assets panel, right? I could select everything again and add character styles, right? I don't have many, but here's all the character styles, loads them in, right? Easy enough. Simon's having an English breakfast tea. That's probably what I should be drinking. So much more healthy for you. Mitch is just having some nice water in quotes. Quotes changes everything, by the way. All right, so there that is. That looks good. You can drop that in. That's always going to link back to, say, this main menu and this initial screen right here. Okay. Check this out. You're going to love this. You ready for this? Shalab? Check this out, Shalab. This is so cool. Like, I wasn't expecting this, but check this out. I'm going to drop in this button into the symbols panel. Right, here it is. Oh, guess what, Paul? You added the word explore there. That means you can never reuse that button. You can only use it for explore stuff. Or can I? Because I'm going to drag out another one. Now we have 2 buttons. But check this out. Even though they're both symbols, right, I can change the text right here for a button, even though it is a symbol instance. Boom. remember, they're still tied together. So if I decide to tweak the gradient or give it a border, for instance, it changes it everywhere. I mean, this is just thoroughly impressive to me, right? All right, let's move on. Yes, can you, Simon, do you see the power of this? The fact that I can have this text be independent? What I can also do, Simon, check this out. I can right click and I can update all symbols. So what if I want all of the symbols to say sign up? I can select update and it will change all of them. But most of the time, you're probably going to want them to be different. I just love that. That's just like really powerful and awesome. All right, so let's move on. Let's move on. Covered symbols. Oh yeah, check this out. You ready for this? Simon and Delmontas, good to have you here. Check this out. Like, what if I have even, whatever, I have another screen. I'm using this gradient, right? So this is going to be my signature color. I'm using this gradient here and here and here. All the places. Well, I can right click and edit that gradient. And if I edit that gradient, you guessed it, it changes it everywhere. Okay? So we're talking about global symbols, global colors, even global character styles. Super cool. There we go. Done and done. Let's move on. One more thing. I got only about 12 minutes left, I think. But I'm going to dive into additional assets. So what have I done? I've created screens. I've created all these various now officially assets over here. I don't have to create everything from scratch or even bring them in from Illustrator because I drew them in Illustrator. I can use these UI kits, but there's even more UI kits. So be aware of these. Initially, we had that wireframes, but we also have more, as it suggests. Should be 5 at this link that opens up, and you can access these additional UI kits on this web page. We can see them right there. More importantly, I have them on my desktop, and I can use these assets like I'm going to do right now. I'll just kind of point out one to you. Here we go. Just give you an idea. There you are. Nice. Look at this. This is really cool. I could take this and say, hey, you know what? I actually want to use this for my map view for my app. Paste that in, and I can start to use it. Or I can use wires if I want to. Here's the wires one. All right. By the way, this wires app, if I change this color here, watch edit, change this to pink, it changes everywhere. Look at that. Every single screen. Look at how easy it is to like change colors for something. Again, really powerful. Okay, sticking with our signature pink, maybe locating one of these. Using one of these, for instance, I can copy this and maybe use that for my app, dropping that in. Let's get into prototyping now. Okay, so we've done enough drawing and creating. Like I said, we'd spend a majority of that time doing so. But I have like these 3 screens. I want to link them together. How would I link them together? I'll show you right now. In fact, if you don't mind, I'm going to just open up one that has even more screens. So we can see a little bit more action happening with a number of screens based on everything we've already learned. Check it out. Everything's good to go. What do we want to do? Link this stuff up. We'll go to prototype, going to the prototype section, and then I'm just going to select this explore button. But really, you'll notice that if you can select it, you can link it to something else, because once you select something, sure enough, you get this pointer, this tag that is ready to go, that you can pull out, that you can point to the second screen, just like that. Sure enough, the Explore button is going to link to this second screen, which is called Menu, right? I'll click on that. You can see it's going to link to Menu. It's going to dissolve or some other transition over whatever time I suggest or give it. But you can see how that works. It's going to link there. We need it to link back. Oh, here's our fancy logo pointing it back. In this case, let's have that dissolve. Right? What about this repeat grid, this first item, pointing it to that screen? Instead of having it dissolve, let's have it slide left. Boom. Cool. All right, next up, what about this little button right up here? Look at this little button. Let's take a look at it. Let's zoom in on it. This is my back button. And yes, I could point it back here, but what I actually want to do is I'm going to click on that tag, and I'm going to show you this additional option. Is I can select from this drop down rather than pointing to it, but you could also pick previous artboard. So that's what I'm doing. Selecting previous artboard. Doesn't matter how you got to that screen, it's going to reverse that transition and go back to that screen. So again, in this case, I don't know how they got to Cuba. Probably doesn't matter how they got to this screen. It's always going to go back to that particular place where you came from. Again, slide left, super easy. Let's just make this previous, connecting that, and I'd say that's pretty good. Let's try this out now. Look at this, another thing that happens. Okay, so Oliver, how did I get this blurry box effect right down here? Well, if I select this box that's over here, it's called background blur. So select the item and then select background blur in the properties panel. All right, so back to prototype. I notice my splash screen has this little tag that says, hey, I'm the home page. We're going to start here. So when I preview on my desktop right up here by hitting this play button, it's going to start there, sure enough. And then I can click Explore, and it does that dissolve, go into Cuba. We can see that slide left. We can see this transition when I click on that button. It's going to reverse it as well. All right, can we place notes around the design? Evangi, I don't know if I'm saying your name right. That's a great idea. Let's do that. Check this out. We end up with our final design, something like this. And in prototype mode, I'll do a Command A to select everything. Check this out. Couple unique things right in here. I want to point this out real fast. For this main screen, notice how I made it longer? That's exactly what I did, is I made the height. I made it taller, right? I made the artboard taller, and then I extended down that repeat grid. And now it's going to be scrollable, which is great. Okay, so clicking play, click Explore, scroll down, click Cuba, click this little map icon right down here to kind of dive into there. So with that done, and maybe some of these buttons are right, maybe they aren't, but that's why I'd prototype it. Let's share this with you as well right now. Upper right hand corner, we can see that says publish prototype, and that's exactly what I want to do. Publishing this prototype, we're going to allow comments, we're going to call this find, we're going to show hotspot hints and all that good stuff, and we will be good. This goes fast and easy. Oh, is that the cat song? Ah, that was the cat song. Okay, I think it's called Flick and Flack by Andrew Apple Pie. I always wondered what the name of the cat song is. All right, opening this link actually opens up on my other window. Here you go. Here's the URL that you can share with anyone. Again, it's basically hidden to the internet. It's not like you can search on this on Google. I'm going to paste the link in chat. Yeah, so you can kind of check it out. But essentially, this is the prototype that you can share. And we can click through this, scroll down, and you asked about comments and adding notes right up here. Click right here to add comments, and I want to say, hey, can we get a better picture here? I'm going to pin this to an artboard. I'm going to pin it right there. That picture. That's what I mean. And guess what? It actually scrolls with it. So again, now I know what's meant by here. Can we get a better picture right there? And I can work on that. Great thing is that those comments stay with this. I can reply saying, oh, thanks, Tim. Tim has already commented. Man, you're quick. So I can go ahead and update this prototype, fix it, and then resolve those comments. And you can always access them later on. Okay, kind of dive through. You get the idea. Ah, this is another problem, like this button. And that's why I came to it, is this one needs to be fix this button. You get the idea. Done and done. Boom and boom. By the way, I think this is great, even if you're doing just regular, like you're doing graphic design or, you know, anything in any other app. I think it's worthy to use XD just for this sharing feature, right? Because I can have clients sort of point out things and we can work through a design. Even if I've created it in InDesign or Illustrator or whatever, bring it in as one flat image into XD, publish it out. They have a fancy link and they're good to go. Cool. Cool. Okay, Steven asks if it's just for prototyping or can you actually make an app from this? It is just for prototyping. So, yeah. If your next step, you've solved all the issues that you needed to solve. You've maybe designed whatever you needed to design. Then you'd go into development, which in this case is to export out all these graphics. You could export out, say, all the artboards. You can export out everything that's selected, right? And you can actually, we have sort of extensions. We have a couple different options in terms of like working with extensions. So this is kind of a hint as far as what's coming in the future, is being able to, you know, publish things out and use Avocode or Zeppelin, and there's like 4 others. The Adobe XD site has all that stuff. But if I go with selected, by the way, I wanted to point out exported folder. Obviously the different types, but I wanted to point out if I do say iOS, it's designed at 100%, but it's going to create high DPI images there as well. Right, so if that's done, click export. It'll export out all those graphics. Last thing I'm going to show you. Last thing I'm going to show you is really cool. Right up here, clicking, not publish prototype, but publish design specs. So not only would you send the developer all of the graphics, but you'd want to give them this link to design specs, and this will allow them to see exactly what font's being used, how far away the title is from the edge, you know, what specific colors are available that you're using and all that stuff. Yeah, so thank you, Tim. So the Monday streams are your way to get ahead this week, because we're going to have challenges all week. We're going to have giveaways all week. I haven't even talked about the giveaways, but this sort of sets you up for success for this week. Again, Tuesday through Thursday is all about inspiration and watching a professional really work and problem solve and get inspired by them. And this is definitely just more of the training aspect. So with that done, clicking open link. Again, I did publish design specs. I get this beautiful view. Let's view it larger. And guess what? It actually shows what's linked together as well as I roll over them. But I can start to take a look at this home screen or the splash screen, and I can see this text. I can copy that content. I can see what font it is and get all the specifics on it. That's Published Design Specs Beta. Cool. So, did you guys mention something about on mobile? If I view this on mobile, I'll be able to see this without a lot of the Chrome if I view this link on a mobile device. I can also connect my mobile phone if I want to, and then show it directly on my device right up here in the upper right. You can see iOS device. Cool. All right. Will be possible to download assets from the developer's link. Great, Ray. I love where your head's at because that's exactly what we're going for. So yes, that is coming. I can say that without worried about my badge not working here at Adobe. For the most part, yeah. We actually had that feature a while ago. In something else entirely. So we actually do have some of that technology. So nonetheless, I think I covered everything. I'll just kind of review the schedule. We have our cool app that we made. Again, we went through all of this: creating, designing screens, publishing, and then sharing those prototypes. The next thing you're going to ask is all these questions around maybe the link. Do you want it to, like, is it password protected? Do you want all these other features? I encourage you to tune in to Damien Borba's live stream on Facebook on the Adobe XD page. So that's where he will be. Maybe somebody will be kind enough to post that link. I'll try to post it here to the chat. But essentially what you want to do is join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Specifically me, but I'm not going to be doing the talking because really we have the man, the myth. There he is, Pablo Stanley, up at 9 a.m. So you can click on the schedule tab and see everything there. So that being said, Fabrizio. Oh, I love that name. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. I think that does it for me. You have the schedule right here. I'm going to let you go and really appreciate your time. And we'll hopefully see you at 9 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow morning. Prizes, fun stuff, learn. And, of course, you can catch Damien Borba on Facebook right now. So thanks so much for joining me. Have a beautiful day, everyone.